She hugged me, called me her second mother, and smiled like an angel. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon candles and rain on the windows, but something inside that moment felt off. The warmth in her arms didn't reach her eyes. Behind that sweet, practiced smile, I saw it. Something small and rotten, like a bruise hiding under perfect skin. I'd seen that look once before, years ago, in another woman's face, her real mother's. And that memory was the kind of wound that never healed. I live in a quiet corner of the city now, where the streetlights hum and the houses pretend to be peaceful. I keep my curtains half drawn and my music low. People think I'm private. The truth is, I'm haunted. Every time the clock ticks past midnight, I hear the echo of that same soft laugh, the one her mother used to make when she lied to me. Back then, her mother and I were closer than sisters. We grew up together, shared everything, even dreams. I trusted her more than I trusted blood. We planned to start a small catering business. I handled the cooking, she handled the clients. It started beautifully, until the first big contract came in. That was when she took everything. The money, the contacts, and my reputation. She blamed a missing payment on me, told investors I'd stolen from our fund. Overnight, I went from talented chef to liability. I lost the business, the friends, the faith of everyone who mattered. She disappeared with the profits, left me to face the whispers. That was 10 years ago. But betrayal doesn't fade with time. It only ferments. So when her daughter, Alicia, showed up at my door years later, I didn't know what to feel. She was 20, maybe 21, with the same golden brown eyes and that same gentle voice that could melt anyone's guard. She said her mother had passed away suddenly, complications from a surgery. She had nowhere else to go, no family willing to help. She's the only one she ever trusted, Aunty, she told me, standing there with a suitcase and the smile that trembled just enough to look real. What would you have done in my shoes? Turn her away because of her mother's sins? Or open the door and try to believe people can change? I opened the door. The first weeks were peaceful. She helped in the kitchen, laughed at my old jokes, and filled the house with a kind of youth I'd forgotten. On Sundays, we'd watch old movies. She'd rest her head on my shoulder like a child. Sometimes I'd catch her studying me, my clothes, the way I arranged my hair, the rhythm of my speech. I thought it was admiration. Maybe it was. Then small things began to shift. My favorite mug cracked mysteriously. My spice jars were rearranged. I'd find my phone slightly out of place or the Wi-Fi password changed without my doing. Harmless, maybe, but I've learned to listen to patterns. Every betrayal starts with something small enough to dismiss. One night after dinner, she handed me a glass of wine. "To new beginnings," she said. We clinked glasses. I noticed her watching carefully as I drank. I didn't finish it. Later, when I poured the rest into the sink, the wine looked slightly cloudy. Maybe just sediment. Maybe not. I never asked. Alicia started dressing differently, more mature, sophisticated. She borrowed my scarves, my bracelets. Once I caught her wearing my perfume. "I just wanted to feel classy like you," she said, with a laugh that tried too hard. I smiled, but my heart whispered something else. "She's studying you again." About 2 months after she moved in, people in the neighborhood began to greet her more than me. The delivery boy brought her packages I hadn't ordered. She opened one in front of me, a set of catering knives, gleaming and new. She said, "A friend sent them. I'm thinking about starting my own food business." The words hit me like a ghost. My kitchen, my recipes, my story, replaying through her. Was it admiration? or an inheritance of another kind. One evening, I went out for groceries and left my tablet on the counter. When I returned, the screen had been wiped to the home page, all my notes gone. She said she was cleaning. I didn't argue, but that night, I backed up everything I owned and hid a small camera inside a flower vase. Sometimes survival means learning quietly. What the camera showed the next day made my stomach tighten. While I was at work, Alicia had hosted 2 guests. One was a man in a sleek suit. The other, a woman I hadn't seen in nearly a decade, my former investor, the same one her mother had conned years ago. They talked about rebranding and using the old recipes. Alicia smiled, confident, charming. My name was not mentioned once. My notebooks lay open on the table between them. It was like watching my past play on repeat. Only this time, the thief wore a younger face. I didn't confront her right away. I waited. I listened. I wanted to understand the game before making a move. Maybe that's my flaw. Patience. But patience is also the seed of revenge. A week later, she approached me with tears in her eyes. "Aunty, I got an offer. A chance to showcase some of your dishes at a local festival. I used your recipes, but I gave you credit, I promise." She hugged me tight. I could feel her heartbeat steady and strong, not the rhythm of guilt. "You'll come, won't you?" she asked. "Of course," I said, yes. The day of the festival was bright, deceptively cheerful. The crowd smelled of butter, smoke, and ambition. I found her booth. It had my signature dishes, every detail, from my handwriting on the menu boards to the floral garnish I invented years ago. Only one thing was missing: my name. A banner read, "Alicia's Soul Kitchen." Reporters were already circling her. When she saw me, she froze for half a second, then smiled that angelic smile again. "Aunty, you made it." In that instant, everything inside me, anger, hurt, disbelief, compressed into silence. I smiled back because silence is sharper than any scream. That night, I didn't sleep. I replayed her mother's face in my mind, the day she disappeared with my money. The symmetry was cruel, almost poetic. A mother steals my future, her daughter comes to finish the job. Maybe fate wanted to see if I'd learned anything. I had. I spent the next week rebuilding my resolve. I went through my old contacts, updated my portfolio, and quietly reached out to a journalist I trusted, one who loved stories about family legacies. I told him I had something better, a generational scandal. But before any of that, I needed proof, real proof, that Alicia's sweet act was a mask. She made it easy. Success had made her careless. I noticed she left her phone unattended during showers, the same phone she used to manage orders. One afternoon, while she was humming in the bathroom, I connected it to my laptop and copied her emails. What I found felt like falling into a mere maze. Contracts under my old business name, plans for a launch using my recipes, my photos edited to crop me out. She'd even registered a small company under the same name I once dreamed of, just without me. When she came out, I acted as if nothing had changed. "Dinner's in 20 minutes, I said. She smiled, oblivious. Inside, though, something had shifted. The woman who once forgave her best friend's betrayal was gone. The woman sitting at that table now understood that forgiveness is a luxury you can't afford twice. That night, I stood by her bedroom door, listening to her soft breathing. She looked so peaceful, curled under the duvet, a hint of a smile still on her lips. I almost pitied her. Almost. But pity doesn't rebuild a broken life. The next morning, I told her I'd been offered a catering job for a charity gala downtown. She congratulated me enthusiastically. She said, "You deserve it, Aunty." I told her I'd love her help preparing. She agreed instantly. Of course she did. She loved being part of my world. That was the point.
Over the next days, I made sure she saw every ingredient, every list, every detail, except the one that mattered, the guest list. I'd invited the journalist, the investors, and every person her mother once lied to. I also included Alicia's business partner, the man from the video. Let the stage be crowded. The more eyes, the better the fall. When the evening arrived, the venue shimmered under crystal lights and quiet music. Alicia looked stunning in a white dress, innocent and radiant. She carried trays, greeted guests, played the perfect apprentice. I let her enjoy it. Halfway through the night, I raised my glass and asked for everyone's attention. I said, "There's someone special I want to thank," gesturing towards her. My late friend's daughter, who reminded me what family means. Applause filled the hall. Alicia's eyes glistened with pride. That's when I turned to the journalist. "You wanted the full story of Soul Kitchen, didn't you?" I handed him a folder thick with documents, emails, and photographs, the evidence of theft spanning 2 generations. His eyebrows rose. The crowd quieted. Alicia's smile faltered. I didn't need to raise my voice. The truth spoke loud enough. "Some legacies," I said softly, "are built on borrowed dreams." For a moment, no one breathed. Then whispers spread like wildfire. The man from the video slipped toward the exit. Reporters surrounded her. Cameras flashed. She turned to me, eyes wide, begging silently. I met her gaze with the calm of someone who has finally stopped bleeding. That was the last night she stayed under my roof. The gala had ended hours ago, but the echo of applause and whispers still clung to me like smoke. When I stepped outside, the night air felt sharp, almost clean. The city's hum rolled beneath the streetlights. It sounded like relief. Inside that hall, I'd finally torn down the illusion she built from my life. In the morning, the headlines did the rest. Young entrepreneur accused of stealing family recipes from her guardian. The truth behind Soul Kitchen's fall of grace. Reporters camped near my gate for 2 days. I didn't answer the door. I just listened to the clicks of their cameras and thought about how silence can sometimes sound like victory. Alicia disappeared. Her social accounts went dark, her phone disconnected. For a moment, I thought it was over. But revenge has a way of echoing back. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. No address, no return name, just a folded page with shaky handwriting. "You ruined me, Aunty. You think you're better than her? You're exactly the same." I stared at those words until they blurred. Maybe she was right. Maybe the line between justice and cruelty had already dissolved. But the part of me that still remembered sleeping on a friend's couch after her mother's betrayal whispered, "You finished what she started."
I tried to move on. I reopened my small catering service, the real one this time, under my own name. People booked me out of sympathy at first, then out of respect. For a while, peace returned, thin, fragile, but real. Then, one night, I came home to find my front door open. The kitchen light was on. A half-burned candle flickered on the table, wax spilling like tears. On the counter lay one of my old recipe books, open to the first dish Alicia ever helped me make. Next to it was a photo, her smiling at the festival, her arm looped through mine. On the back, in pen, "You taught me well." That's when I realized she hadn't vanished. She'd been watching, waiting. I didn't call the police. What could I say? That a ghost from my past had left me a memory on my kitchen table? Instead, I locked the door, sat down, and let the fear run its course. When it passed, something colder settled in. Not panic, resolve. If she wanted a game, I'd end it quietly, cleanly. I checked my finances, tightened security, changed every password, and moved my business files offline. Then I wrote her a letter, not to send,
but to read to myself a confession, a warning, a goodbye. You have your mother's fire, but not her aim. I already lived through that storm once. You won't get a second chance. For months, nothing happened. Then, as spring began, I received an invitation to a new culinary showcase downtown. The organizer's name was different, but the logo, those soft ivory letters curling over a red-crimson background, was unmistakable. Soul Kitchen. She'd rebranded again. The audacity almost made me laugh. I didn't plan another public confrontation. Those only feed the fire. Instead, I showed up quietly, blending into the crowd. The venue was smaller, humbler, and when I saw her behind the counter, thinner, tired, but still smiling for the cameras, I felt an ache I didn't expect. She wasn't an enemy anymore. She was the echo of one. When our eyes met across the room, she froze. For a moment, the noise faded. Then she nodded once, a gesture, somewhere between apology and challenge. I nodded back, because some wars end not with words, but with acknowledgement. I turned and walked out into the evening. The city smelled of rain again. People ask if I ever forgave her. I don't know. Forgiveness isn't a door you open. It's a window you sometimes forget to close. I just know that when I breathe now, it doesn't hurt as much. Maybe that's enough. What would you have done if you were me? Waited longer? Walked away sooner? Be honest.
Months passed. Summer folded into autumn, and the city slowed beneath gold leaves and soft rain. My catering company found its rhythm again. Clients smiled when they tasted my food, and sometimes they said, "There's something honest in the flavor." I never told them honesty can taste like salt and regret. I heard of Alicia only through whispers, that she'd left the city, that she was working in a small cafe by the coast. Some people said she'd married. Others said she'd sworn off the restaurant business altogether. I didn't chase the truth. Let her have her version of peace. Mine was finally growing roots. One evening, just before closing my shop, a delivery boy brought a small package. No note, no name, just my address written in neat, familiar handwriting. Inside lay a single object, my old garnet bracelet, the one that vanished months before she left. Tied to it was a slip of paper with 6 words. "Thank you for teaching me everything." I stood there for a long time, the bracelet heavy in my palm. Maybe it was apology, maybe confession, maybe both. I set it in the window where the sunset could catch the stones. They glowed faintly, red as memory, soft as forgiveness. That night, I cooked one of our old recipes, her favorite, roasted plantain with honey lime glaze, and ate alone by candlelight. For the first time in years, I didn't taste bitterness. I tasted life moving forward. Sometimes I still dream of the girl who called me her second mother. In the dream, she's a child again, running through my kitchen, laughing, leaving flower footprints on the tile. I wake up smiling, not grieving, because revenge, when it's over, leaves you with 2 choices: keep the ashes or plant them. I chose to plant. And if you're listening, wondering whether I'd do it all again, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But I learned that justice isn't always fire and ruin. Sometimes it's the quiet knowledge that you survived. And they had to learn why. Tell me, what would you have done in my place? Would you have waited that long to strike? Or would you have walked away sooner, before the story began?